Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com.
What's up, and welcome back to BarDown Blackhawk Talk, episode number 10, presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinnie Pariese, and right here I have my brother, Joey Pariese. And Joseph, are you even there? It looks like some technical difficulties are causing Joey to not be there, so I'll start off the show by saying happy late Memorial Day to those of people who served in the Army, do whatever they do to help protect our country, protect our rights. We wouldn't be doing this show if it wasn't for you. So to all those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, we're thinking of their families and all that during this time. So we are very happy to, everybody talks about how we have a 3-day weekend. Let's not forget why we have a 3-day weekend and how we're able to do this show, watch hockey, all that stuff. To those who fight, we salute you. So waiting for Joey to get back. We're going to have plenty to talk about today. Great start.
Mike, the second we went live, my computer just said, nope, no internet. I don't understand what's going on. And I heard you. So it's like, it must just be on my end. But here we are.
Well, I gave a shout out to those who served our country, protect everything, where you have the ultimate gratitude for them. Words from you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And especially those who made the ultimate sacrifice. And, we recognize that. So.
Absolutely. With Memorial Day, while we celebrate those who do everything for our country, we do tend to have barbecues. I do enjoy a good barbecue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's probably one of my favorite things of summer is going outside. There's the cold beers, the food especially, like barbecue food, can't beat it.
All right, no free ads, but what kind of beer you like and what's your favorite protein to devour on a Memorial Day picnic?
Well, typically when you're outside, it's cold or it's hot. You got the sun beating on you. For me, it's a Corona Light, Corona Extra, Corona Premier. I don't care. If it has the lime, that's a bonus. It doesn't need it. People who think they need it, they just don't like Corona then. Corona Lime is a bonus, is my beer. And then it's going to be a burger, a nice juicy burger with, we made this discovery of that barbecue brioche bun we bought. And granted, I love my brioche buns, but getting them in that bag for the outdoor barbecue, that was a game changer. A nice juicy burger.
Absolutely. I could go for a burger. I love it with some cheese, either cheddar or American, a good hot dog, and then, of course, great tasting, less filling Miller Lite. That's just what I enjoy. You're starting to come around on it, even though you don't deserve to ever have it again in your life. Like, great tasting, less filling is king.
It's good. It's good. And they're getting me. They have the best marketing, I would say. Like, I see the commercials and it kind of makes me crave one. I just saw a commercial yesterday. It was for Miller High Life. And I know it's not the great tasting, less filling, but they even have a better slogan, the champagne of beers. So, I mean, I might have a case of High Life this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you brought it up, the best campaign, the best merch, everything Miller Lite is the best. So Miller Lite, if you're watching, we know you are. Warrior guys, you want to sponsor us, because I know if great tasting, less filling becomes our sponsor, then it'll be your favorite undoubtedly.
Oh, absolutely.
Paying the bills.
Absolutely. These cans that I'm drinking on stream, only Miller Lite.
Yeah, I would definitely be all in for that. So hopefully something tonight happens that causes yours truly to celebrate with a couple great tasting, less fillings. And we're going to talk about that in period number 1. Today's June 2nd. Today is the day of the 2021 National League Draft Lottery. First of all, your thoughts on the lottery.
Yeah, it's always a fun time. Me and you especially, we always watch it. You know, you got the deputy, what's his name?
Bill Daly.
Bill Daly, the NHL deputy, or what is that what his title is?
Deputy commissioner.
Yeah, he
was like the vice president of the
the first year we watched it, I think was the year that I want to say it was the year Florida won it.
Yeah.
And it was the first year where like we were really like into watching the draft lottery, and he's got these cards, and they've kind of done it a couple different ways throughout the years, like especially when they started like lottering the top 3. But the guy, straight face, he just holds up these cards and then he flips them to the camera, and it's just so intense. It's probably the most intense 10 minutes of the non-hockey playing NHL. So I'm very excited for it.
Absolutely. And it has the ability to transform the league as a whole. So when Colorado won it, they got Nathan MacKinnon, and now he's the catalyst of probably the best team in the last 10 years. So, I mean, I think Colorado is right there with those 2013 Hawks for the best on-ice product, and Nathan MacKinnon, and even the Hawks winning the lottery with Patrick Kane. They weren't the worst team in the league that year. If Patrick Kane goes to a different team, everything is different. So tonight really is a true, like, potential way for everything to change.
Absolutely. And it could be your team, which we've seen them win it twice now. I've only seen my team in it twice.
The Devils have won it 3 times. In 2011, they won it, but back then the rule was you can only move up 4 spots.
Yeah.
And they took Adam Larson, who they eventually traded for Hall, who was the first overall pick the year before.
I was more along the line just making my joke that your team has won it as much as mine has participated in it. But yeah.
Yeah, you're a clown. We have the odds, though. I would like to show everyone the odds on, how the potential of all this shaking down. The Buffalo Sabres lead things off with a 16.6% chance. And then in second place, you have the Anaheim Ducks, who have become known as kind of a lesser team over the last 2 or 3 years after just being a complete powerhouse. And they're in second place with a 12.1% chance. They're going to add a good player no matter what, because they're going to be in the top 5 regardless of how the draft goes. And they're just going to add another good player to their current roster. The Seattle Kraken and New Jersey Devils are tied for third with a 10.3% chance. Seattle's locked into a higher seed because of the fact that they're the expansion team and they gave them the leg up on the Devils, but the percent remains the same. And then the Columbus Blue Jackets round out the top 5 with an 8.5% chance. So I ask you, do you think the Columbus Blue Jackets, New Jersey Devils, Seattle Kraken, Anaheim Ducks, or Buffalo Sabres win the lottery? Will a top 5 team win the lottery?
You would want to say yes, and especially because I'm an odds guy. I like to play the odds. If I'm a betting person, I would say yes, which I am a betting person, but I'm going to say it just never seems to go that way. The past few years, especially, a bottom team has kind of, climbed substantially. So, and I also think it's kind of bullshit that Seattle's there. I don't remember if Vegas was there. I think we talked about it a few weeks ago, but I mean, they have their expansion draft, and just to be handed the third best odds, it kind of screws the Devils a little bit, if you ask me.
Now, you might notice on the right side of the list there, the Arizona Coyotes are crossed out. They have a 3.1% chance to win, but if they do win, there will be a redraw because they are forfeiting their first round pick due to rule breaking as far as NHL scouting. And then right below them comes the hometown Chicago Blackhawks with a 2.7% chance. Thoughts on those 2 comments?
Yeah. I really hope Arizona wins it just because I like chaos. I think that'd be hilarious.
You might never know if they do.
Oh, really?
You might find out if you watch the video of the draft lottery later, but on live television tonight, you wouldn't know.
Oh, I'm picturing like they have, Bill Daly flipping the cards, and then all of a sudden we get to the end and it's Arizona, and then they're like, all right, we'll be back in 10 minutes for another.
Yeah, there's no way that happens.
I think that would be the way to do it, because that shows legitimacy to them actually winning it in the first place.
Out of all those teams, who would you root for to win the lottery?
Well, I could say Chicago because I think that would help us. That would help the city. It would help the team. But at 2.7, I don't see it. What I want to see, and I care a lot about the three of these teams, is the Anaheim Ducks, the San Jose Sharks, and the Los Angeles Kings. We've talked about how we love California hockey. All three of these teams are fun to watch. I think the Kings, even though they're at the lowest there, would you agree that they probably have the brightest future?
Yeah, absolutely. Their farm system is stacked.
Exactly. And I really like Quentin Byfield, who they took, in the first round this year, or this past year, I should say. He played a little bit toward the end of this season, and I thought he did really well. So I'm rooting for the Los Angeles Kings, but I actually did, I did the math and I added the three together. And if you add the three California teams together, that being the San Jose Sharks, Los Angeles Kings, and Anaheim Ducks, it gives it a 24.6% chance for that to happen. So with that being said, that's pretty much like a 25% chance. I went ahead and I put a bet in that one of those three teams would win it. And I like the odds because now I have a 25% chance to win. So I'm going with California tonight. I'll be rooting for California. Specifically the Kings, they give the best odds, and I think they're the best up and coming California team. So I'm rooting for the Kings, but I'll take any California team.
Yeah, I think that's real mean of you not to include the Devils in that.
I mean, do you want the Devils? They're on pace to be the next Oilers. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they already kind of are. But here's the difference. The Oilers really only hit on one of those picks.
Yeah, the Bruins hit on the other one with Taylor Hall.
Yeah, I mean, Nail Yakupov was a bust. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is a good player, but I wouldn't say he transformed their organization.
No.
And Connor McDavid, I mean, they hit better on a number 3 pick and Leon Draisaitl. So the Devils, at least Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes, are awesome players. And they have a good, nice core coming up. What people might not realize is the first 2 picks in this year's draft are the lottery. So picks 1 and 2 are going to be in the lottery. So Buffalo can't fall any farther than third. And like let's say a team like the Devils, they can only pick 1st, 2nd, 4th, or 5th, or 6th. But the only way they pick 6th is if 2 teams below them win the top 2 spots, and that just seems very, very unlikely.
Yeah. One team I really just hope doesn't win it is Seattle. I'm mad that they're there. I don't think they deserve it. They haven't done anything. They're barely even a team yet. Let them do the expansion draft. It's bad enough they're stealing a player from every team. They're not going to be bad, I don't think. So the fact that they have a chance to get the number 1 overall pick, like that high of a chance, I think it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I mean, do they really not deserve it?
I don't think they deserve it. Let them suck.
But I mean, look how well Vegas has played and how great that was for that team, that organization, the league as a whole.
Oh yeah, I think Seattle could do that without the top 3 pick.
Well, Vegas fell all the way to 6th from 3rd in their first NHL draft, and they took Cody Glass, and he's a pretty good player.
He's okay.
I mean, he plays in their bottom 6. So it's not like he's getting the most ice time either. He's not playing over guys like Wild Bill or Max Pacioretty or Mark Stone.
Yeah, I mean, if it was up to me, I would, put him in it, yeah, but to give him the 3rd most, that's kind of a big slap in the face to the teams who are actually bad already.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I get it. I mean, they're either picking 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th.
Exactly.
That's literally where they're going to be.
I personally believe that the New Jersey Devils can use that pick more than the Seattle Kraken, and the Seattle Kraken don't even have a roster yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to say, but it's true.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I just hope Seattle doesn't win it. As much as I like Seattle, and I'm going to root for Seattle, I like Seattle already more than Vegas, just because Vegas annoys me. I just, coming from a non-biased point of view, I just don't get it. I don't know.
Is there any team besides Seattle that has a fully constructed roster that would annoy you if they won?
Yeah,
Like
Dallas. They are the best team on this list. They only have a 1.4% chance, but if the Dallas Stars won it, that would be kind of annoying because I believe that they are a playoff team with their current roster, and they just kind of got, the short season hit them. They didn't start off the way they wanted to. They dealt with a lot of injuries. I think Dallas Stars are a playoff team, and that the fact that they have a chance here, a very, very small chance, but it's a chance. I don't hate Dallas, so I mean they're playing by the rules. They only have a 1.4, and if you win at a 1.4 at that point, I mean, yeah, you deserve it, right?
yeah, and like they had COVID early. They missed like 2 weeks. They just never really were able to get on track. Tyler Seguin missed most of the season. It would be like if Colorado had injuries to McKinnon, Makar, and Landeskog in the same season, fell just short, won the lottery, and it would it's the same type of deal.
Exactly.
They're a cup contender for me going forward.
Yeah, I think that would probably, if Dallas does win it, let's say Dallas gets the first overall pick, that would have to be history, like a team going from Stanley Cup final to first overall.
Yeah, I would think so.
That's never happened.
I know the Avalanche had a chance when they took Bo and Byram in 2019 because they had Ottawa's pick.
Were they they weren't in the finals though?
No, oh yeah, true. They weren't.
I'm saying like to
they weren't
play
in the team though.
I'm saying to play in the Stanley Cup final and then the next year pick first.
Yeah, that's
never happened. It would be absurd.
Now, there's a lot to unpack when it comes to the lottery. I think there's 5 players, I would say, that are like the top 5 or 6, but I have it narrowed down to 5 for my personal draft, which I will release in future shows and on my blogs. But where do you think the Blackhawks would go? First of all, let's look at the list and point out the Blackhawks are the only team out of all 16 from the Central Division.
Wow. Yeah, I mean the divisions got split up, and I guess a lot of teams that are in the Central traditionally are now playing in other divisions, and they're playing in the playoffs. That's a very good point.
Now, the Arizona Coyotes are coming to the Central Division next season, so I guess you could count them. But in the traditional previous Central Division, the Hawks are the only team on this list from that division that has a chance at the lottery, and that's exactly why I think they are in trouble next season.
I don't know. I guess that's a good point, but just because you're in the playoffs now,
no, it doesn't mean anything. UC Stars could get injured for Nashville, or Kaprizov could get injured for the Wild. Like, I get all of that, but as we stand right now, the Blackhawks are the worst team in the division by far, including the Coyotes, because I just don't love their roster. They more than anyone could use this first overall pick.
Yeah.
Now, what direction would you go if the Blackhawks did win tonight's lottery?
I don't know much about these top 5 guys that you have. Do you want to, give a little?
Yeah. So
I would take best available.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really dive into what position you need because they kind of need everything.
And that's the interesting thing about this upcoming draft. Nobody knows what the best available is. This is one of those like pick'em drafts. It's not like last year where Alexis Lafreniere was like the guaranteed number 1 pick. Mm-hmm. Jack Hughes, Rasmus Dahlin. The last time this happened, there were 2, Nico Hischier and Nolan Patrick in 2017. But since then, there's always been that one guy at the top. The first overall pick could be one of 3 or 4 guys this season. And so to start things off is probably the guy who, if I had to bet my money on who would go first, it's Owen Power. And Owen Power is a defenseman at the University of Michigan. He's a big boy. He's big minute eater, can create offense, defend in his own zone. Out of all the players on the list, I would say he has the best chance of playing in the NHL next season, but you never know. This could be a draft where nobody plays in the league next season. And I will point out before I name any other future names, COVID made things interesting this year. Some guys played less. Some leagues didn't even play. The OHL didn't play at all. So some guys were like signing contracts in, other countries, playing in those leagues because the OHL didn't play. So Owen Power, he's a beast. He's probably going to go either first, second. I mean, I guess if he falls to third, I'd be a little surprised. His teammate, Bat Beniers, Matt Beniers, I think I mean to say, he also plays for Michigan. So heavy year for Michigan Wolverines Big Ten hockey. He's probably the highest forward out of every group here. It's a defenseman heavy top 5. 3 of my top 5 are defensemen. So that leads me to my other forward, William Eklund. He plays for Desjardins in the Swedish Elite League. He was a line mate with Alexander Holtz, who was a New Jersey Devils prospect last year, or from the draft last year. And then you got Brant Clark, and then, of course, there's Luke Hughes. And Luke Hughes is the younger brother of Jack Hughes, who is also on the New Jersey Devils. And Luke is a defenseman like his brother Quinn, who plays for the Vancouver Canucks. So he has 2 brothers who went in the top 10, top 7, because Quinn went 7 and Jack went first. This is a kid who comes from a hockey family. He plays defense. He's going to be a good player, and he's going to attend Michigan next season. So Michigan really has 2 players that are actively there. We don't know what's going to happen for next season. And then Luke is going to go there next year. So those are my top 5.
So Luke Hughes, how old is he?
He's 18. But he's going to do what Quinn did and play for Michigan for 1 year.
Like for sure? Like let's say a team drafts.
He's committed.
And if a team drafts him, can they be like, hey, come play for us your rookie year? He says no?
No. Yeah. He's playing for Michigan next season.
That's crazy.
That's what Quinn did, and look at him.
Yeah, I mean, right away. I mean, I know the name Luke Hughes. That's the only name that you mentioned that I like kind of know a little bit about. And if he is a defenseman like his older brother Quinn, and we know how good he is over in Vancouver. He came in second in his Calder year, only to Cale Makar. So if he plays anything like that, which I would imagine he does, you know, he grew up with 2 guys who are already in the NHL, and Jack is nowhere near his ceiling. So Luke Hughes would probably be a fun guy to watch if I'm the Chicago Blackhawks, because if he's anything like Quinn, you just got a franchise defenseman.
Yeah, and it's funny to me, 3 of the 5 have connections to the Devils. Eklund played with Holtz. Holtz is probably going to play in the NHL for the Devils next season. Hughes is the younger brother of Jack, obviously. And then Brant Clark is the younger brother of Graham Clark, who is probably Binghamton's best forward this season. So, and they're going to be the Utica Comets next season. So, you know, that's their new AHL team. There's a lot of good players coming through the draft, and I love the American flavor. Owen Power plays for Michigan. He's not American. He's Canadian. But just college hockey and the United States National Development Program, it seems like they're just throwing guys near the top of these drafts year after year.
Yeah, there was that one year, I think it was 2019, where it's like there was the record for most Americans drafted in the first round, right?
Yeah, you had guys like Matt Boldy and Jack Hughes and Cole Caulfield, who's lighting it up in the playoffs with the Montreal Canadiens right now. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
I think on this show, we're going to have a lot to talk about with USA hockey and college hockey as the years come along here.
Yeah, so if you, from a Devils fan point of view, you win it, who are you taking?
Luke
Hughes?
Even though Owen might be better, you got to take Luke Hughes.
I think you have to take Luke Hughes, right?
Because then you could try and lure in Quinn in 5 years.
I think that's difficult, and I don't even necessarily think that's probably not an option. Vancouver would be foolish. He's your guy. But just to have Jack and Luke, like, it reminds me of like the Stahl brothers. 2 of them always played together. Yeah, the forwards mainly played together, being Eric and Jordan, and then Mark played majority in New York.
And he's a defenseman.
Yeah, and he's the defenseman. But now that there's 2 defensemen, you can't really. I don't think there's ever been brothers in the NHL who are a defensive pair, have there?
Not a defensive pair. I know a defenseman forward combo when Jordy Ben was on the Dallas Stars.
Yeah. That doesn't count though.
No, yeah.
You can't be on a line together. Like Jordan Stahl played with Eric Stahl. Sedin played with Daniel Sedin. Have there ever been defenseman brothers? That would be cool.
Did Scott Niedermayer play with his brother in Anaheim?
That would be.
I don't think they were D partners though. I think they played on separate pairs.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen it.
What's Scott Niedermayer's brother's name? I can't think of it off the top of my head.
I don't know. You're talking way before my time.
It was on the Ducks, like when they won the Cup in 07. It wasn't that long ago. I'm pretty sure Needs played with Pronger, though. So they weren't on the same pair, but I guess they were on the same team. If the Devils win, I wouldn't mind seeing them take Luke or Owen. You can't really cater to a player. You have to take the best thing for your team. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. I hope someone other than Seattle wins it. I'm with you on that, because if they get the first pick, it's like it'll be hard to project who's going to play with who, because you don't know.
Exactly.
And if the Hawks win, who would you take? You still going Luke, or would you take Owen Power? I would take Owen Power if I were the Blackhawks.
See, I really don't know. It seemed like from what I've seen, Power's the bigger guy, kind of more of like a Rasmus Dahlin, maybe. He's a big guy, and it seems like every defenseman nowadays is gonna be a puck moving, like somewhat offensive defenseman. It's just the way that these kids are playing. But if Luke has the upside that Quinn has and offensively, then I don't know. It's kind of a coin flip for me.
And I think people are scared to commit to Luke too, because of the fact you don't want to sound like the guy who just goes with Luke based on name recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Like we did that with Quinn. He fell all the way to 7th, and look at him. I would argue he goes first if that draft is redone. I know I'm taking Quinn over Rasmus Dahlin at this point.
Oh, 100%.
And Rasmus Dahlin is a very good player, like a very good player.
Yeah. There's, I don't know, a young defenseman who also went toward the top, Mira Heiskanen. I would probably, for me, it's a toss-up between Hughes and Heiskanen.
Heiskanen went in the Nico draft.
I know, but I'm saying like young defenseman who went top 5.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And then you got guys like McAvoy who slipped to 14, and it's like, how?
Yeah.
I think it's hard to take a defenseman early because people want to see the high-flying offense, and defensemen take longer to develop. And I just think there's not a good due process when it comes to evaluating defensemen opposed to forwards. The same thing with goalies.
Yeah,
who to draft goalies high, and it's like, well, if you hit on him, you're going to have a Spencer Knight.
Exactly. Before Dahlin, number 1 defenseman, was it Aaron Ekblad?
Yeah.
And look how long it took him to finally turn into like, okay, this guy is sick. He's an elite defenseman, and he's not putting up the most numbers, but like you want him on your team because he's that good defensively.
Yeah.
So it is hard to take a guy like that first overall because, like you said, you want to see the guy who's going to put up 60 points in his rookie year. But sometimes with a defenseman, you just got to take him and hope that he turns into a good defenseman.
Absolutely. So Joey's rooting for California. I'm rooting for the Devils. The Hawks, I want to root for them, but it just feels like, 2.7% chance.
Yeah.
You never know, though. That would change everything. Like I said, it's crazy because this draft doesn't have that like number 1 guy. I would say it's Owen Power for most teams. Just like I think if Vancouver jumped up from 5.4%, I think they would take Luke as well. But other than those two, Owen Power seems to be the guy. And there are people that are all in on Beniers.
Yeah, I don't know much about him.
He's a forward. He put up a point per game at Michigan. It's very hard to be point per game in college hockey.
That could be a guy too. It all depends on like where they feel they're at internally and what position they want to, go for. And I think with this year specifically, because there's not that number 1 guy, the number 1 pick could have very well be decided on who wins the lottery. If a team that needs a defenseman badly wins it, they're probably going to go in that direction. But if a team who's like pretty stacked defensively wins it and can use the help up front, maybe like Dallas, I think they have a very good D. And if they win it somehow with that 1.4% chance or whatever, that I would say they probably take the forward.
Yeah, no doubt. And there are a lot of connections to other teams in this draft, but I'm imagining that a team will take a guy that's kind of unexpected and then look really smart many years from now because, like I said, this draft has a lot of unknowns to it based on the circumstances of the last year. And I think back to that Aaron Ekblad draft or not Aaron Ekblad, the Nathan McKinnon draft, I want to say it was. Nate went first, and then the Florida Panthers passed on Seth Jones and took Barkov. And it's like, if that draft was redone, Barkov would still go second. They made the right decision. He's one of the best players in the world. And so stuff like that just happens, and it's like, where do these guys come from? How do these teams? It's all about the scouting.
Yeah. And if for those who are listening and plan on watching it tonight on June 2nd at 5 p.m., the way it works, and this is the best part about watching it, is the order in the list. It'll be on the screen, the list of teams, how it's supposed to go from bottom to top. And if he flips over the team and it's not the team that they're expecting, that means that team won a pick, and that you'll see their logo later on when they get to picks 2 or 1. So that's the most fun for me. So if you're watching and you see on the list, they're about to reveal pick number 12 and they flip it over and it's the Arizona Coyotes logo and not the Chicago Blackhawks logo, that means the Chicago Blackhawks won a pick. That's how it works?
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to work with Arizona in particular because they're not getting a pick.
I'm assuming their logo will still be there, right?
I don't know because they're not going to have that pick.
Just using that I just use the Hawks as an example, and the Coyotes are next to them. So
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. So,
but it could be confusing for someone who's never watched it before. Like, okay, this is supposed to be the Philadelphia Flyers. He turns it over and it's not the Flyers. Like, what does that mean? It means they won a pick.
Absolutely. People know what you mean. I'm just giving you crap about the Arizona Coyotes because they're stupid and got their draft pick taken away. And if they win it, then they're going to be redrawing, and we might never even know it. So poor Arizona. You hate to see that.
Yeah.
You got anything left on the draft lottery other than you're so excited for it like I am?
I am very excited for it. Go California and Chicago, but 2.7. You never know. You never know.
If either the Hawks or Devils win, I'm drinking wine. We're talking on Twitter. So keep an eye on the draft lottery. Keep an eye on my Twitter at Vinnie Pariese. We're having a party tonight if one of those two teams wins the lottery.
Deal.
We're getting a bottle of wine just in case. And then if neither of them win, I'll put it away for the weekend.
I'm going to have to film you for content because your reactions to the Devils winning it, the years that they won it, priceless.
I could have jumped through a wall.
Yeah.
And next year it goes into effect where if you win it, you can't win it again for 5 years.
Yeah, that's bananas. Next
year has the next Connor McDavid. Shane Wright was given exceptional status so he can play in the OHL as a 15-year-old. Only Stamkos and Ekblad and McDavid, I think Tavares maybe too, are the only ones who have ever been granted that type of stuff. It's a rule that came out. So Shane Wright is got potential to be a top 5 player. So next year is the actual year you want to win the lottery. So if I'm the Hawks, I'm taking my beating next year.
Interesting.
If Shane Wright came to Chicago, he would be a superstar.
Keep that name in mind, Shane Wright.
Yeah, I mean, he's
probably at one point be on my fantasy team and win me my 6th championship. So yeah.
Yeah, probably by that point. Now, when you watch YouTube clips of a guy and you look for highlights, it never really looks bad because they're called highlights for a reason. It's going to be all their best plays. But there are some guys, when you watch their highlights, you look, you give a little point and you go, that's different. I know that's different. Connor McDavid, okay, a good example is Brandon Saad highlights. They're just the random middle of tier player that came to mind. You watch Brandon Saad highlights and you're like, oh, that guy's a really good player. He scores, he's big, he's physical, he's kind of mean sometimes. But then you watch Connor McDavid highlights. They're both highlight packages. They're both scoring goals on the plays, but you look and you go, 97 in orange looks different. There's something different. That's how I feel watching Shane Wright clips as opposed to Matt Beniers or William Eklund. Shane Wright is unbelievable. So next is the year you want to win the lottery.
Very good point. I'm excited to see these highlights that you're talking about. I've not seen anything on him. So
yeah, Shane Wright, for those who are looking for some YouTube to watch later tonight after you watch the lottery and my Twitter reaction to the Devils winning.
There you go.
So you ready to talk some playoffs?
Yeah. You thought I was going to say it. You thought I was going to say it.
So close. Let's send you over to period number 2.
You like that little tease I had? I almost said it. I was like, do I say it for him? No. We lost the last game. Not in the best mood.
You're a clown.
We'll talk about my series in a bit. This series, what are we talking about?
go Canada. The Toronto Maple Leafs. Last time on this show, me and Joey were huffing and puffing about how they were up 3-1. They had game 5 that night, I believe, like 2 hours after the show ended.
Mm-hmm.
Man, did they choke it away. They lost 2 straight games for the Habs to force a game 7. And then in game 7, all the Leafs needed to do was play the best game of the season for themselves. And they responded by playing the literal worst game of the season. Go off, King.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, the Leafs suck. It's bad. It's embarrassing. I can go into it like about how they can't win a first round. You know, they lose to Washington in 2000, what year? 2018.
Yeah.
Or 2017, they lose to the Washington Capitals in 6. 2018,
Yeah.
they make it to game 7 against Boston and lose. 2019, they make it to game 7 against Boston, lose. They missed the playoffs last year. Did they lost in the bubble?
Yeah, they lost in the play-in round in the bubble, so
Yeah.
did technically miss the playoffs. I consider it a playoff year for them. They would have made it.
I'm going to say no, they did not make the playoffs.
You want to give them credit.
How do you figure? They lost the play-in round to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, but in a normal year, they're making the playoffs.
Okay, well, then they lost in the most possible first round that you can have. They found a way to lose in it. And then this year, of course, first round again, they're up 3-1. And hey, we can't lose to Boston in 7 games. So what do? We're going to lose to our other probably biggest rival in the Montreal Canadiens. But we're going to go up 3-1 just to make it interesting. So that's what happened. You know, you have 41 goals in a season, a shortened season at that, 56 games, 41 goals. You show up in the playoffs and you score 1 goal. I'm not pointing fingers, but it's everyone. But you kind of have to look at the guy who's making the most and scoring the most. And the fact that he is silent, him and Martiner, I'm pointing the fingers at them. Nylander played great. Tavares was hurt. I actually thought that some of their D-men played really good. Jake Muzzin was great. But
Morgan Riley, too.
The guys who won you games all year long just did jack shit. And the guys who won the Habs games, Carey Price, Tyler Toffoli, Cole Caulfield came in and started playing really good. Kakko Niemi scored an OT goal. I mean, those guys stepped up the way that you need to. And the Toronto Maple Leafs need to learn from that. Who knows what's going to happen and what that team's future holds. I don't know.
I'm ready.
Let's hear it.
The Toronto Maple Leafs are a joke. They are, as Stephen A. Smith called them, because, you know, Stephen A. Smith's talking about hockey now because his monetary well-being is invested in the NHL now. They are the Dallas Cowboys of the National Hockey League. Right when you think that they're going to give you something, they give you nothing. This team hasn't won a playoff series since 2014. They are the only, or 2004, sorry, 2004, even worse. 2014 would have been bad for that roster, let alone 2004. They are the only team in the salary cap era to not win a single playoff series. They have become a joke. They can dominate all regular season they want. Matthews, in my opinion, is the 3rd best player in the league. He did not show up in the playoffs. Neither did Mitch Marner, who's one of the best offensive players in the league as well. They make a combined $22 million, and they were a joke. The Montreal Canadiens head coach is a dummy. He sat 2 of his 4 best players in the first 2 games because they were young. And then he finally grew a brain and put them in, and they started to win. The Leafs made that dummy look like a smart coach. That's exactly what the Maple Leafs did. They got outworked. It's hard to replace John Tavares. I know. Trust me. When you lose a player but they were up 3-1. They needed to claw out 1 more win. They needed to not be a joke for 1 period. And they couldn't get it done. And, you know, I like the Leafs. I root for them. I want them to be good. They are good. And that's the problem here. They continuously give people reason to believe in them, and then they shove it down your hole. And it freaking stinks. it's so annoying not being able to watch these guys in the upcoming rounds here because the drama's better when the Leafs are involved. The Canadians are not as fun of a team to watch as the Maple Leafs are. I just can't believe the way this has gone down. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Winnipeg Jets shove it up Montreal's hoop because that team stinks. And I cannot believe they pulled this kind of upset over the Maple Leafs. It's just become a joke. The Leafs are a meme.
I've been saying it for years.
I mean, it's different, though. The Bruins are better. They lost in Game 7 to a better team. You almost tip your cap to them in that situation. The Bruins are better. They were better, at least back then. There's no reason that a goalie with the numbers that Jake Campbell has and Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and William Nylander and Morgan Riley and Jake Muzzin, I mean, that team is loaded. And they're one of the most analytically driven teams in the league. And all the rest of the teams that are analytically driven, there's 2 that are a disaster. The rest are all awesome. The Colorado Avalanche, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Carolina Hurricanes. What do those 3 teams have in common? They're the 3 best teams in the league. And they're 3 of the 5 most analytically driven teams. The other 2, the Edmonton Oilers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs are just cursed, and the Edmonton Oilers are stupid because of the players they put around Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. It's a joke what the Leafs have become.
I know. I agree. And I'm by no means was rooting for Montreal. Like these are my 2 least favorite teams in the league playing against each other. And, you know, if you look back 2 weeks ago, we're sitting here previewing Edmonton versus Toronto already. Like we thought for sure it was going to happen. That's what everyone picked. We're going to have McDavid versus Matthews in the second round. And now we got Carey Price versus Connor Hellebuck. That's the story for me going into this series. Don't sleep on Montreal. What?
I said I'm so excited to watch Pierre-Luc Dubois against Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to start shitting on my Jets because I do like the Jets. Yeah, I kind of turned on them going into that Edmonton series, but that was just what I thought. I thought the Oilers were going to beat the Jets. I like the Jets. I'm a Jets fan. They're probably one of my favorite Canadian teams. Now they're playing against, my rival Montreal, so I'm rooting for the Jets all the way. But something about the Canadians, I'm not going to, the Leafs shit the bed. They suck, but Montreal, just as much as Toronto blew it, Montreal showed up and got it done. They're getting goals from guys like Corey Perry. Carey Price is just in form right now, and that's going to be hard to beat. So I actually expect this Jets-Habs series to be pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Corey Perry, Carey Price, Shea Weber. I mean, they just have the veteran leadership that people don't always give enough credit to, I would say. But I mean, their coach, he's an interim coach for a reason. They fired Claude. They got this guy. I cannot believe that the Leafs did that. I was genuinely stunned. And I feel like I've seen it all in the NHL at this point. Like, we've seen teams come back from 3-0, and we've seen a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning getting swept by Columbus a couple years ago when they were probably the best regular season team ever. And, at least Columbus pretty much showed that they had the stuff early in the series, and they ended up pulling it off. In this series, the Leafs, who are a significantly better team, blew it again. We are here again. And you say you were rooting for the Habs or for the Leafs? You're a liar.
I was rooting for chaos, and I got it.
But the Leafs, man, the league literally took COVID-19, put it in a bubble, and said to themselves, how can we use this to help get the Leafs to the cup? I know, we'll make an all-Canadian division where most of those teams wouldn't even make the playoffs anyway, and the Leafs can just dominate their way to a Final Four and then take their chances against either the Bruins or the Lightning or whoever. And they still messed it up.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to get an easier path than they would have this year.
They're going to go right back to the Atlantic Division and have to play one of Boston or Tampa in the first round, or Florida. Good luck with that, pal.
Yeah. Game 1 tonight, 6:30 Central in Winnipeg. I don't know if there's fans. If there are, that plays a huge difference because that Winnipeg whiteout crowd, I mean, who?
I don't think there is.
I don't think so either, because Canada's like, a year behind, it seems.
I always say like they're a year behind in pop culture. Like they're now listening to the Black Eyed Peas and One Direction.
Yeah.
Like they're just getting that music now. It's the same thing with this.
Who do you got? Game 1.
I can't believe that this is what it is. Game 1. I'm rooting for Montreal. I'll say it. I'm rooting for Montreal. I think the Jets are going to win. Connor Hellebuck.
Well, no, screw that. From now on this show, we suck at making picks. So it's just, who are you rooting for?
Montreal.
All right.
I want them. Okay, so we have news on our screen here. The Winnipeg Jets have announced that they will allow 500 fully vaccinated healthcare workers to come to game 1 and 2. That's okay with me. I know they don't deal with the pandemic the same way we do here in the States, and I know Illinois has been one of the slower states on reopening, and the Blackhawks, and they only had home fans for 3 games. The Cubs and the White Sox are now at 60%. I think the hope is to be at 100% on June 11th when that phase 5 starts rolling out. But I mean, in Canada, things just aren't moving in the same direction as of right now.
Yeah, I would love to see a comparison of records for a playoff series where the teams before one of the winners swept and one of the winners went to game 7. I would love to see the record, and if the rest is going to play a part, the fact that the Habs have played 3 extra games and they've been playing, is that going to help or hurt them? Are they going to be tired? Are they going to be more in the groove? Is there going to be rust on the Jets? It's going to be one thing that I'm looking forward to in this series. I got the Jets all the way. The Canadians beat the Leafs, so
I think the Jets are more talented than the Habs, and I think that will be the ultimate prevail for them to win. But I think if 2 evenly matched teams were playing, I'd rather be the Habs with 2 days rest instead of 7. I really do, because they played that triple overtime game, to end the series. But I mean, other than that one game, they kind of handled Edmonton somewhat easily. They shut down McDavid. They got to overtime a couple times. There was that one floater that Edmonton gave up to lose in overtime that night we were out at the bar. I mean, it's tough because some teams like the rest, some teams like to get right back into it. I would like to get right back into it.
No, see, I disagree. I like the rest.
I'm not a rest guy. I'm thinking like from my own personal standpoint and playing sports throughout my life, and like when we started going back to the gym again after COVID ended and the gym started to reopen, I know I had some serious back issues that I was dealing with. I don't know if, and these guys are professional athletes, they're not a freaking podcaster writer who's working from home, but I know it's a completely different story. But I just feel like, to me, it would seem like getting right back into the groove after ending would be easier.
You think players are 100% healthy, but they're not. Everyone is dealing with and stuff. For me, you're able to recover those properly when you're just practicing. There's a difference, and these guys give it all every single game. I feel like the Jets are going to be pretty damn healthy. Nico Ehlers came back from the series off of an injury. During the series, he came back, and so just the extra time for him to get fully 100%, and he was scoring goals like crazy. I think he's the X factor for this team. I think the rest is gonna be a big part. I think the Canadians don't stand a chance.
That's a really good point. I mean, with little injuries, I know the rest will always help with that. So I'm not going to disagree there. You make a good point. I think both of us make good points on why there are. I'm sure we can agree on this. There's pros and cons to getting right back into it, and there's pros and cons to rest.
Yeah, and I think this is the best goalie matchup of the playoffs.
So I was going to say, finish these 2 sentences. The Montreal Canadiens will beat the Winnipeg Jets if
Carey Price is lights out.
The Winnipeg Jets will beat the Montreal Canadiens if
they show up. No, I'm gonna say if they continue to get depth scoring. They were getting goals from everyone, it seemed.
I like both of those answers. Mine was you nailed the Montreal one for exactly how I have it. The Montreal Canadiens will beat the Winnipeg Jets if Carey Price is the Carey Price we've known in the Olympics, and when he was winning the Hart Trophy, and really even against how he played the Leafs.
Oh yeah.
And then the Winnipeg Jets will beat the Montreal Canadiens if both teams play at their best. Because I believe if both teams play it, or I'll even say if Winnipeg plays at their best, if they get depth scoring, I mean, they have Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele. Mark Scheifele is the best player in the series, in my opinion. And then you have Blake Wheeler and, Pierre-Luc Dubois, the goalie Hellebuck. Their defense is a bunch of no-names that came together. I mean, it was crazy because when Dustin Byfuglien announced he was not joining the Winnipeg Jets ahead of 2019-2020, that meant that all 6 players who dressed in their final game from the year before were gone. All 6 defensemen were gone. They traded Trouba to the Rangers. I mean, just every single one of them was gone. And they figured out a way. Winnipeg is a sneaky good team, man.
Yeah. They have Jordy Ben, right? Is that the Ben I'm looking at?
Yeah, I believe that's Jordy Ben. Well,
Yeah.
Jamie's certainly still on the Dallas Stars.
Yeah. I didn't know if there was another Ben. The guy's name, he was on my fantasy team. I just wanted to make sure I was saying it right. Neil Pionk, I think is how you say it. I think he's a great, offensive defenseman. And you didn't even mention Nikolai Ehlers or Kyle Connor. I think those 2 guys are like
nasty.
Yeah. So
when I'm naming, because when you make a list of names when you're giving analysis like that, you normally say 2 or 3 names. When I give 2 or 3 names and 2 of them that I leave off are Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers, those are 30 goal scorers that can be playoff game breakers if they play the right way. Okay. So I like Winnipeg's forward depth a lot. I think they'll match up well defensively, but Winnipeg is fast and mean and ready to win.
Yep. What else you got?
Your thoughts on Carey Price?
Yes, Carey Price. I mentioned that if the Habs win, it will be because of him. And he is actually, fun fact here, I was astounded when I heard this. Mind blown. Carey Price, his team beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. They won a playoff series. And Carey Price is the first player in NHL history to win a playoff series with a salary of more than $10 million annual average value.
In the salary cap era.
Yes. With a salary of 10 mil AAV. That's the salary cap era. And yes, that is first player, not first goalie. There's only 2 goalies to make that much, and it's Sergei Bobrovsky, who's gone, and now Carey Price. So you think of the players who make $10 million a year on their average salary hit. Start naming a few. You got Connor McDavid. Austin Matthews is up there. Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Jack Eichel,
out,
and there's more.
The Leafs
is he up there?
The Leafs have 3.
Exactly.
It's hard. You have to build a roster. People don't understand. They look at the big names and they're like, "Oh, that team." You have to build a roster. That's why everyone got so angry at me when I wrote an article, even just with the thought of trading Patrick Kane. Yeah, that would stink, and the season ticket holders would be angry. You do not win when 3 guys are making 50% of your cap. You just don't win. It's impossible. How are you supposed to ice a good 3rd or 4th line?
Who would you say, as of right now, the teams that are left in the playoffs, the 3 best to win the Stanley Cup?
Boston, Colorado, and Tampa Bay. The highest paid player out of those 3, I can already tell you, is Nikita Kucherov at 9.5.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Vegas, but the point still stands. Not a single player on any of those teams are making $10 million.
No, the Stanley Cup final in 2019 between the Bruins and the Leafs, or the Bruins and the Blues, the Leafs wish. The Bruins and the Blues, the highest paid player made 7.5. So
who was it? Tuukka?
It was either Tuukka or Krejci.
They're both up there. Krejci currently makes 7.25, and
Ryan O'Reilly too.
Yeah, Tuukka makes 7. Krejci's the highest paid Bruin, and when the highest paid Bruin is making $7,250,000, and he's not even your 5th best player.
Yeah, That's crazy.
That just shows the age of when they signed David Krejci, and B, the things you need to do to build a successful roster. And I'm not going to, the Bruins are a successful team. Yeah, they have not won the Stanley Cup with this core. I mean, they have 4 players who did win the Cup. You call that the core? I consider the core a little more expanded now from the 2011 team. But
you replace Lucic and Horton with David Pastrnak and Charlie McAvoy.
Yeah, and exactly. I'd consider Charlie Coyle, and Tuukka Rask obviously is the starter now. So it's a different looking team than it was in 2011, but the point remains the same. You need to have a sound filled roster, and you can't give all the salary to one guy.
And that's why people in like my mentions on Twitter are getting mad about the Devils not spending in free agency. What do you want them to do? You want them to give Kyle Okposo $7 million so he can stink up the joint for the next 7 years? Or like the Vancouver Canucks with Louis Eriksson or Jay Beagle? That's not how it works.
Or Buffalo with Jeff Skinner. How much did they give him?
You can't spend all that money on ass. You just can't. Like Nico Hischier makes 7.5. It was an overpayment at first. That contract is going to look amazing in short order.
Exactly. I'm interested. The most interesting contract I'm excited to see is Nathan McKinnon. Yeah, Jeff Skinner's making $9 million.
Now, this can change when the salary cap goes up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, then you have more to spread out. But as we stand right now, what is it, 81.5?
I got it right here.
There's only one team I've seen do it successfully, and their players didn't make that much.
82 mil, 500,000, 24.
That's not that much when you think about it.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, Crosby made 8.7 and Malkin made 9. Kunitz was in the 6s. Letang was in the 8s, I want to say, and then they had Marc-Andre Fleury making a lot. But first of all, none of those guys were in double digits, and all of those guys played well in the playoffs. If you're the Leafs and you want to win the cup, you need those highly paid players to perform in the playoffs, and they did it. When Crosby and Malkin were in their prime and they were making that much, they're winning Conn Smythe trophies because they have 25 points in 20 games. And Marc-Andre Fleury's making incredible saves. And then they supplement them with cheap guys like Zach Aston Reese, Jake Gensel, Connor Sheary. I mean, you're just not winning, and the Leafs are the ultimate product of that.
Yeah. And I want to talk about Colorado's salary. We can kind of use this to segue into their series, but I mean, if they don't win the cup this year or maybe next, they might be looking into some troubles.
So let's get into that series in period number 3. All right, period 3, Barroom Network. Make sure you go to deepdishtees.com and buy all your merchandise. You got Southburbs Hitman, you got our show, BarDown Blackhawk Talk, Friendly Confines, our show tomorrow, Crosstown Crosstalk, 2 p.m. All the merch you ever want, deepdishtees.com. Let's talk about Colorado. You were talking about their salary. They need to win the cup sooner than later. They're going to have to pay Nathan McKinnon. Cale Makar is not going to be on a rookie deal forever. Rantanen and Landeskog are going to be looking to get paid. Bowen Byram will be on a rookie year for another year or two, but then he'll want to get paid if he's as sick as we think he's going to be. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so Mikko Rantanen is probably the only guy who is secure right now at $9 million, $9.25 until the 2025 season concludes. Nathan McKinnon right now, arguably the best player in the playoffs. You know, that's not arguable. He's the best player in the playoffs right now, arguably the best playoff performer in the league. You really can't debate me on that.
I have none.
6.3 he's only making. 6.3 for the best playoff performer in the National Hockey League. And that's until 2023. So you got 3 years left there, 2 years after this year. After this year, I have not heard a single word about this. I had no idea their captain, Gabe Landeskog, is up. He is going to be an unrestricted free agent. And then you look at their D. You have the last year right now on Cale Makar's entry-level deal. So they're going to need to sign him. Who knows what he's going to make? And their goalie. You know, top 3 goalie in the entire league this year, Philip Grubauer, unrestricted free agent next year. This is the year for the Colorado Avalanche. They know it. They have the biggest challenge in front of them right now with the Vegas Golden Knights, and they showed Vegas that, hey, we are not messing around. What did they do in game one?
They smoked them. It was a street fight mixed with a hockey game, and it led to Colorado just absolutely dominating the Vegas Golden Knights, who are just as good.
Yeah.
Maybe not as good, but
I don't think they're just as good, but they're the best team that Colorado has played and maybe will play this entire playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I would put Tampa and Boston right there with them. Now, Boston's got to get through the New York Islanders. Even if the Islanders win, I won't think they're a better team. Sometimes lesser teams win and play other good teams well, and that's exactly how the Islanders play the Bruins. But for the Golden Knights, they just looked outmatched.
Yeah, big mistake. Probably it could end up being the biggest mistake we see all playoffs long. Marc-Andre Fleury sits on the bench game one. He wins round one in 6 games? No, 7 games against the Minnesota Wild. He was awesome. He's the reason. Yes, him and Leonard did split time a lot, but toward the end of the year, Fleury was the reason that Vegas finished where they finished.
You talked about Grubauer being nominated for the Vezina Trophy. So was Fleury.
Yeah, well, I said he's a top 3 goalie in the league. Another guy who's top 3 goalie in the league.
Yeah,
Marc-Andre Fleury. And they put in Robin Leonard to start game one, and he gives up 7 goals on 37 shots with I believe it's an 811 save percentage.
Yeah.
You gotta, it's the Colorado Avalanche, but I think the game is different if Fleury's in net. I don't think it's a 7-1 blowout. I don't know. I say there's no shot that Fleury doesn't start in game 2. It's tonight. I didn't even look. I'm sure they announced it, but it's got to be Fleury in net.
Leonard's not even a bad goalie. He's an elite goalie, but he's just been on the bench for 3 weeks while Marc-Andre Fleury was the best goalie in the playoffs. I mean, the Wild might beat them if not for Fleury.
Exactly.
So I truly believe that was just a dumb mistake by Peter DeBoer, and I understand wanting to get your guy some game. You got to ride the hot hand in the playoffs. That's literally how the playoffs work. And right now, Fleury's the guy. Next year, it very well could be Leonard. We've seen it. And last year in the bubble, it clearly should have been Leonard. And this time around, it's crazy, man. Because then another thing Peter DeBoer would have ran into if Leonard pitched a shutout, then it's who do you go to in game 2?
Exactly. So I don't think, and it's going to be hard to come back from that. Do you think Vegas is just going to come back and answer, or if it's Colorado going to be hey, look, we can beat these guys. We're better than them. We just dropped 7 goals. That's what I think is going to happen. Game 2 tonight is in Colorado. I'm not going to say it's going to be much of the same that we saw in game 1, but I'm taking Colorado. I will not be surprised one bit if they just hand it to them again.
Yeah, if a team could come back and play better, it would be Vegas, I will say. And this is the matchup we wanted from the beginning of the season. We knew that these teams very well could clash in the second round, and we got it. So I'm kind of hoping Vegas makes it a little more entertaining than that last game. I know Ryan Reeves was handed a suspension for that big hit on Graves, but I mean, it just doesn't look close right now. Colorado, like we said earlier when we were talking about the lottery, Colorado is probably the fastest team I've ever seen. They just use their speed and their skill, and they give everyone fits.
Yeah, I'm very excited for tonight, and I don't think Vegas is ready. I think they played against Minnesota a very specific way in 7 grueling games because Minnesota played them very, very well. And now they have to go up against Colorado, who is coming off of a sweep on the St. Louis Blues. It's gonna if they end up making it competitive, it's gonna take them 3 or 4 games, and it's gonna be too late. That's my prediction. I think Colorado gets it done somewhat early against the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, I mean, if Colorado wins tonight now, and that would put them 6-0 in the playoffs, and the Golden Knights would have to win 4 of their next 5 to advance.
Exactly.
That's just grueling. Yeah. A must win for Golden Knights tonight.
Yeah, because I believe it's must win. You nailed it, because from my point of view, the way I look at it and the way I kind of, analyze playoffs is so Colorado won game 1 in Colorado. Colorado wins game 2 in Colorado, they're going to win one of them. Vegas, I don't see Vegas winning both games in Vegas. Colorado's that good, they're going to steal one on the road. Come back game 5. Now what? It's 3-1 in Colorado. There's a different mindset there. If you're Vegas, okay, we're going into their barn. We have to win 3 straight. They're taking it game by game. But if you're Colorado, you like to be in that position coming home. And that's what I think is going to happen. Colorado in 5.
The Avalanche aren't the Maple Leafs.
Exactly.
So the other series that we could go over, the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're playing against the Carolina Hurricanes. It's not what we would have expected so far. There's a lot of firepower between these two teams, and each game has been a 1-goal close match. You know, the Lightning are up 2-0 in the series, but it easily could be 2-0 the other way. I know Vasilevsky has just stood on his head. The other Vezina Trophy nominee. I mean, if you don't think goaltending is important, just look at this year's playoffs. What do you got?
Yeah, you would be a rich man if you just smashed the unders, because you have these two teams who we know both can score goals. And pretty much yesterday, all game 1-0. The Lightning get another one 2-0, and then finally Carolina, with the goalie pulled, scores 1. So it was kind of more
so close to tying it.
It was kind of more Tampa until the very end yesterday, opposed to game 1. Game 1, I'd say, is a little closer. But Carolina is a team that didn't lose a single home game all first round. And then they finally beat Nashville in game 6. That was a series of the home team. And right now, if you're the Tampa Bay Lightning, now you're headed back to Amalie Arena for game 3. That is prime position to be in.
Yep. You like their chances.
I like their chances a lot.
And if they win game 3, then you almost like their chances to sweep, because they'd be playing game 4 at home, up 3-0 in the series. If the series hasn't been, like I said, it hasn't been as exciting as I would have thought, because Hurricanes versus the Predators was awesome theater, and so was Lightning Panthers. So I kind of figured these two high-powered teams would come face each other and just go crazy with Sebastian Aho and Svechnikov and Kucherov and Stamkos, and they just haven't done it.
I know. Another thing, if that does happen, what you said about, them getting swept, and if they lose tonight, then they're going back, or if they lose game 3, then game 4 is in Amalie. That would be 3 straight playoff sweeping exits for Carolina.
Yeah, that's crazy, because they win a round every year too. It's weird.
Yeah, they won. So in 2019, they won 2 rounds, Eastern Conference Finals. They get swept. Round 1 of last year, after the play-in round, they got swept.
Yeah, the Rangers to get to the first round.
And now the Tampa Bay Lightning have the chance to sweep them out of the playoffs again. I mean, up 2-0 in a series when you just lost both games at home, like that's not a good hole to climb out of. I'll be shocked if the Lightning don't close it out here.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't agree more, and I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to see Carolina steal 2 in Tampa and then make it a series and make the games a little more back and forth at least. This one's kind of been like tight checking. Like, I want to see the stars shine.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things to do is I'll parlay a team that if you're better, I like to parlay the team I'm taking winning with an adjusted over. I haven't done it in this series just because I just really haven't had time to get it in before a game. And I got lucky because I would have taken the over in most of these games, and it's just been so tight, low-scoring games. So now I'm not touching the series.
Yeah, I got killed yesterday. I had the Lightning parlayed with the over.
See, that's
the Lightning got killed on the over.
Yeah, that's something I would do, but
it's 6.5. That's low, man. Especially with all the offensive star power that this group has.
6.5. I mean, yeah, you're asking for 7 goals. That's a 3-3 overtime game, or
I know, but that's certainly possible when you have the offensive firepower. I mean, the goalies are the difference.
It is. That's what I'm saying. If you had, especially if you took it adjusted under, say if you took the game under 4.5, like, you'd be rich. not saying to do that because these teams have the firepower to screw you, but
it would be a very intense clinched legs type of game that you're watching if you took under 2.5 and you saw the Hurricanes come that close to tying it yesterday, where they were literally like on the goal line trying to get that thing past Vasilevsky, and they came so damn close.
Yeah. So yeah, one more series. What is it?
We'll skip that one. People don't want to hear about it.
I agree. It's been a great show.
The New York Islanders against the Boston Bruins. It's the only series so far in the second round. Thanks for watching, everyone. We're not talking about the Bruins. Get Joey out of here. Bruins versus Islanders. It's the only series in the second round so far that each team has a win. The Bruins won the first game in the most dominating fashion. David Pastrnak with the hat trick. Taylor Hall seals it up with an empty net goal. And then in game number 2, it looked like it was going to be more of the same when Charlie Coyle scored a sweet goal early in the game. And then the Islanders just roared all the way back, and they took the game in overtime thanks to an overtime GWG by Casey Cizikas. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so game 1, it was, probably the most dominating performance I've seen from the Bruins. They were just awesome in so many ways. David Pastrnak, and I'll even say Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand, that entire line was just feeling it. It was great to see Taylor Hall get the empty net goal in that game. And then game 2, you're kind of thinking like, okay, let's just do that again. Let's be perfect at home because they didn't lose a single home game in round 1. Let's win this one, go over to New York up 2-0. And it didn't happen. An unfortunate goal. Jeremy Lauzon, who had a tough game. It's just a tough break for him. He took a penalty earlier in the game, I think. Someone did, or maybe it was Mike Riley, but it was a tough way for him to go out and just throw it over carelessly, and it goes off Charlie Coyle, leads to a breakaway. That was one of the breakaways where I was like, that's how it's ending. I knew he was scoring that the second the breakaway happened. And the Bruins were down 3-1 in that game, and I was never – usually when the Bruins are losing, I get angry. I'm watching the game with, less emotion. I never got that way once. I knew that they were tying it. I believe I texted you that they were going to tie this game. And they ended up doing it. Brad Marchand with a beautiful goal. And then overtime just didn't go your way. But it happens in the playoffs. You're 1-1. It could be worse. I'm not really too worried about going on the road. It should be a pretty full house over at the Nassau Coliseum. And they're going to have near full capacity as well. And they're going to have a vaccinated section. What's so funny?
Did you see Barry Trotz give a shout out to Borelli's and how crazy people were going?
Did you see Dave Portnoy is moving the live stream to Boston?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I mean, it'll be excited to see all the Twitter antics with that series because it's good content.
Frankie's a clown. Go Bruins.
Yeah. There was another thing I wanted to say about the Islanders, and last week going into the series, I mentioned their name and we kind of mixed it up. So I want to clarify. I talked about Ryan Pulock and how great he is. Yeah. That is not who I meant to say. I was talking about Adam Pelech. He is by far the second best defenseman in this entire series, right under Charlie McAvoy. He has been awesome for the New York Islanders. He's number 3, so anytime I'm keeping an eye on him, when number 3's on the ice for the Islanders, I'm watching him. He's been really good, and he's probably the positive that I have to say about the New York Islanders going into Game 3.
And he's probably going to even look more effective at home because they're going to use him against the perfection line. For those who don't know, that's David Pastrnak, Patrice Bergeron, and Brad Marchand as much as possible, to the point where it wouldn't surprise me if for a couple games the Bruins shake up the lines. But I would like to see how Taylor Hall and his group reacts to getting lesser matchups. I expect a big game from them tomorrow.
Yeah, so Craig Smith also got hurt in Game 1. That sucked. They moved Jake DeBrusk up to the second line, which is good for him. I don't like Jake DeBrusk playing a right wing. I'll be honest. He's a lefty. Taylor Hall's a lefty, and Krejci's a righty. I like, and David Krejci likes it as well. He likes having a righty on that right side. So, I mean, it sucks that Andre Kasha just never is healthy. I don't know what his deal is now, but he did come back for a second and he left right away. He played like one period. So they're kind of, hurting for that right wing right now. I don't think you should, take Charlie Coyle. I think he's playing great as that third line center with Nick Ritchie. And Carson Kuhlman was the guy. But I would say move Carson Kuhlman up to that line to play with Taylor Hall and David Krejci and let DeBrusque continue playing with Nick Ritchie and Charlie Coyle. I'm not the coach. I trust Bruce Cassidy is the coach of the year, the reigning coach of the year. Who knows who's going to win it this year. But another thing to keep an eye on in this series is Tuukka Rask. He is dealing with an injury. I said it during game 2. I texted someone like Tuukka doesn't look right. You can tell the way he sits in his net when something's not right. He gets up a little slow. His left to right movement isn't necessarily there. And when they shoot the puck in, he's not skating behind the net. He always does that. There were times toward the end of game 2 where he just would let it go by. So there was something dealing with Tuukka Rask, and I ended up being right. Yesterday in the media, Bruce Cassidy said he is dealing with nagging injuries. So I mean, what do? Do you start Jeremy Swayman? Do you let Tuukka continue to play? I'm happy they had 2 days off in between game 3 and 2. So that's just one thing to keep an eye on in this series is Tuukka Rask's health. So
I would play whoever gives you the best chance to win. If Tuukka's being that much hindered, you got to go with Swayman until he's healthy.
Yeah, you mean with Tuukka? Wait, you're saying go with Tuukka?
No, I'm saying go with Swayman if Tuukka's not giving them the best chance to win.
Yeah, well, it's looking like he's going to start in game 3, Tuukka Rask, but
I'm pulling for him. I love Tuukka.
If he's not 100% healthy, let's say the Bruins win. If he's not 100% healthy and the Bruins win, you're up 2-1 in the series. I don't hate the idea of starting Jeremy Swayman in game 4, let Tuukka get the extra couple of days of rest, then you come back to Boston for game 5. Possibility I'll be there. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean,
how it goes.
I'm always rooting for Tuukka. Like I was about to say, I hate when clowns don't give him the credit that he deserves. So, I'm all in on rooting for the Bruins, even though you said you don't want the Devils to win the lottery. I hope Tuukka's healthy and they're able to pull this out because the Islanders, they're not as good of a team as the Bruins in my brain, but we'll see what is able to happen here.
I think the Bruins play better against the Islanders than they do against the Washington Capitals, and they won against the Washington Capitals in 5. So,
yeah, I mean, the Bruins, they're a better team than the Islanders, and they took advantage of a pretty lucky bounce in overtime. I mean, I kind of thought the Bruins were going to take that momentum and win game 2. I'm just going to say it. When Casey Cizikas got on that breakaway, I'm like, oh, this is not good. The Bruins don't deserve this. And then, boom, game over. Sometimes you don't always win games you deserve to win, that you played better. The Islanders took advantage of the one lucky bounce they got and going into the island tied at 1.
Yeah, another thing I want to mention, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find his exact stats versus the Bruins. I know you probably can because you're better at finding statistics than I am, but I'll just go off the top of my head here. Semyon Varlamov this season, I think he had 3 shutouts in this season against the Bruins. He played awesome against the Bruins. And in game 1, they did not start him. They started Sorokin because Varlamov kind of sucked against Pittsburgh, and Sorokin was great. He won them the series. So why not continue with that goalie? That is a situation, if I'm Barry Trotz, I'm giving Varlamov another chance in game 1. He ended up not. Sorokin got lit up. Game 2, he finally started Varlamov, and they won. Yeah, it was a 3-3 game in overtime, but they won. So expect Semyon Varlamov to be the goalie for the Islanders in this series.
Semyon Varlamov against the Boston Bruins in 2021 played 7 games, went 5-1-0 with 13 goals against and a 1.93 goals against average. He only had the 1 shutout, but he did have a .943 save percentage, which was, I mean, it wasn't even the second or third best against any individual opponent this season, which is honestly crazy. He had a really good year. The only teams he struggled against was Pittsburgh and Philly. Other than that, he .976 against the Rangers, .947 against the Devils, .932 against the Sabres. So I guess
did he play 7 games? Did he play 7 games against those teams?
The Rangers 6.
Oh, okay. So the sample size.
But I named the 3 worst teams that he dominated. The Bruins are the only elite team he dominated.
Exactly.
The Flyers, Penguins, and Capitals, he actually had lesser numbers. So
Yeah, so I get why they started Sorokin. He just won your series, but for me, you got to look at that stuff. I was happy when I saw Sorokin starting game 1 because of the success that Varlamov has had against the Bruins. So let's hope it doesn't continue. Let's hope that they find an answer for him in game 3 tomorrow at, I think it's 6:30 Central on NBCSN.
yeah, I'm pretty excited because it's a series that has everything. They both have really good fourth lines. They both have high-end skill with Barzal and Pasternak and Beauvillier, and Taylor Hall versus Kyle Palmieri is an interesting story. Taylor Hall versus Jordan Eberle is an interesting story too. So, I mean, there's a lot of good in that series from my point of view.
Yeah.
You got anything left on your boys before we send it over to some extra talk?
We pretty much covered everything. The defensemen are playing great. I want to see Kevin Miller back. We'll see if Kevin Miller comes back, because he's not out long term. It kind of sucks, but the next guy to come out for me is Jeremy Lauzon. He made that play to kind of lose the game for your team, and yeah, it was a freak accident, just throwing it across, and it hits your own guy's skate, breakaway other team game. But I mean, if maybe have the whereabouts of where everyone is on the ice, because he kind of had a blind hot pass over to the point and didn't realize Charlie Coyle was right in the lane, and that's how you lose the game. So for me, Jeremy Lauzon, look for him to come out of the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, before we get to overtime, shout out the 3 Vezina Trophy nominees: Philip Grubauer of the Colorado Avalanche, Marc-Andre Fleury of the Vegas Golden Knights, and Andrei Vasilevsky of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And today we also got word of the is it Ted Lindsay?
Yeah, Ted Lindsay.
The Ted Lindsay Award. It was Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Sidney Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers. We'll have a lot more of awards to cover next week, as there'll be a new award announced every day. So we'll be able to talk about the rest of them next show. So on this show, give me your quick picks for the Vezina Trophy and the Ted Lindsay Award.
Yeah, so for the Vezina Trophy, and this, I guess we'll just call this Joey's goalie talk, because that's all I was really going to do. I'm going to cover,
All right. Let's send it to overtime.
Yeah.
Overtime. Joey's goalie talk. Floor is yours.
Yeah, for me, so you mentioned it's Marc-Andre Fleury of Vegas, Philip Grubauer of Colorado, and Andrei Vasilevsky of Tampa Bay. And for me, the winner is Philip Grubauer. He was awesome this year. He had 39 game starts, and in those 39 games, he won 30 of them, so only 9 losses. He had a 1.95 goals against average and a 9.22 save percentage with 7 shutouts. 7 shutouts is nothing to joke about. The goals against, I can't remember the last time a goalie finished with a goals against under 2, and there's been 4 this season. The other one being Marc-Andre Fleury, Jack Campbell in Toronto, and Connor Hellebuck. I think Connor Hellebuck was definitely the 4th place goalie. If you were to award a 4th place Vezina nominee, for me, it's Connor Hellebuck. But I believe Philip Grubauer takes this one all the way.
Very good. I'm here to disagree with you. I absolutely think it's Marc-Andre Fleury. And I'm almost giving him a little bit of sympathy simply based on the fact that he has never even been nominated for the award until right now. But I definitely think that they got to give it to Fleury. He would be the guy I vote for. He had a 9.28 save percentage and a 1.98 goals against average, and he had 6 shutouts, which is 1 less than your guy. So that's where my heart is at right now. It's hard for me to pick against the Flower. I hope he wins it really bad.
Yeah, so I mean, we are both at least in agreement that it's not going to be a 2-time back-to-back winner in Andrei Vasilevsky, because he is the defending champ. He won it last year with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he had a phenomenal season, don't get me wrong, but for me, it's, if I had to rank them, I would actually rank them Grubauer, Fleury, Vasilevsky, and then I'm giving a little nod to Hellebuck because I think he deserved it. It could have been him over Vasilevsky if you ask me, but
yeah, I agree. Especially since the North Division was a bunch of optional defense and all scoring, he was the one goalie who shined. Well, him and Price. But I mean, Hellebuck is just on another level. So I'm with you on that. What about the Ted Lindsay?
Is that best player voted on by the players?
Yes. So the Hart Trophy is awarded to the best player, the most valuable player to his team, as voted by the big hockey writers. So that normally goes to the guy who had the best season ish and carried his team, whatever. The Ted Lindsay's kind of the same thing, except you think about who's viewed as the best individual player.
Do you, by off the top of your head, know the past winners? Because I just want to make a point here.
I know it's been last year was Leon Draisaitl. The year before was Nikita Kucherov. The year before that was Connor McDavid. Most of the time, whoever wins the Hart Trophy also wins the Ted Lindsay. I can think of one time where that didn't happen. Taylor Hall did not win the Ted Lindsay the year he won the Hart Trophy. So for the most part, they're pretty aligned.
Yeah, so you said it was. Yeah, I got it from 2018. It was McDavid, 17 McDavid, 16 Kane, 15 Price, 14 and 13 Crosby. So the list goes on. You know, it's those elite guys. For me this year, it's pretty clear. It's really without question going to be Connor McDavid. He was by far the best player in the league. He had 104 points in 56 games. It's to me undebatable. I think they picked Connor McDavid, and then there's going to be such a gap between 2 and 3. It literally could have been anyone, in my opinion, but it's Connor McDavid's trophy this year.
You can argue the Hart Trophy goes to a bunch of different people because it's most valuable to his team. Connor McDavid also has Draisaitl. If the Oilers are ever elite with or without McDavid, if they ever become a powerhouse team from top to bottom, then you can say Connor McDavid might not win the Hart Trophy. Draisaitl can put up, he won it last year over McDavid. But when Hall won the Hart Trophy, it was because he led the Devils to the playoffs, right? But Connor McDavid won the Ted Lindsay that year. The Ted Lindsay should go to Connor McDavid every year. No matter who wins the Hart Trophy, no matter whoever is most valuable to his team, for the foreseeable future, Connor McDavid is the best player in the league.
I agree.
And if I was a player, that's who I would vote for.
I agree. But in a year where the Tampa Bay Lightning were so dominant and Nikita Kucherov had 130 points, that year he was the better player. So I don't think McDavid should win it every year. It's just you look at it, and whoever has the best year, it should be very simple to pick the winner of the Ted Lindsay Award. And I'm not saying look at the most points, because if you're within a few points of each other, there could be arguments to be made. But this year there's no argument. It's Connor McDavid. 2 years ago when Kucherov won it and had the 130 points, and the Tampa Bay Lightning won the President's Trophy, it was without question Nikita Kucherov. Last year, didn't Leon have more points than McDavid?
Yeah, he got a little hurt at the end.
Exactly. And I'm not saying go by points. I'm not saying most points wins it. I'm saying...
No, I get what you're saying. There are years where a guy might have the edge. Yeah, you're right. Connor McDavid's not going to win it every year.
Exactly.
But he's always going to be in the running because he quite literally is the best player in the league.
Exactly. Just because he's the best player doesn't mean he'll be the best player every single year. But he is going to be the most consistent best player. He's probably going to finish his career with 8 of these things on his shelf. And this year he wins another one.
Yeah, I could see Nate winning it one year. If Austin Matthews ever has 60 goals and 110 points, I wouldn't be surprised if he won it again.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens with that. I would like to get into discussion about an article I wrote this week here in Overtime. It was some trade packages between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Columbus Blue Jackets for Seth Jones, who told the Blue Jackets that he was not re-signing with them following next season. And I believe there are going to be so many teams that try to trade for him. And there are rumors that the Blackhawks are amongst a favorite to land Jones, along with the Montreal Canadiens and Los Angeles Kings. And all 3 of those teams make sense for Jones. And you could agree or disagree with the trades I have proposed. That's fine. But the Hawks would look like a completely different team if they added a player like Jones.
Yeah, he is. I think Seth Jones is awesome. I don't know if he's the best defenseman on his team. I really like Zach Werenski. But, I mean, Seth Jones is the real deal. He had an amazing playoffs a couple of years ago. Wasn't he the year that they lost to Boston? That was in the second round. Who did Columbus play in that first round? in 2019.
They swept the Lightning.
They swept the Lightning. That's it. How could I forget that? And Seth Jones was a huge part of that. He's awesome defensively. I think he's awesome defensively. Some people might, beg to differ. I think he's good defensively. He's great. He's great offensively, I should say. He only has a cap hit of $5.4 million right now. I say only, that's a lot of money. But, I mean, for a defenseman of his caliber, I think that's a good price. And if the Hawks were to get a guy like him, I think it would be good for Seth Jones, and I think it would be good for the Chicago Blackhawks. That would be an unreal offseason move for them.
I couldn't agree more. And that's why, there are some people who think he's a little overhyped. That's fine. But if he came to the Hawks, he'd be a worldly upgrade over Connor Murphy, who's probably their number one, Calvin DeHaan. Duncan Keith is up there in age now. I think Nikita Zadorov and Adam Boquist stink. So I'm appreciative that article had a chance to go out, because I truly believe that the Hawks would be a good fit for Seth Jones.
Absolutely. I agree. And for those who think he's a little overhyped and overrated, like, he might not be playing to his potential right now. Columbus is kind of a dumpster fire. They just parted ways with John Tortorella. I don't think the relationship with Tortorella and his players is always the best. I think Seth Jones is a great defenseman. I would take him on my team any day. I've seen him play to his potential, and it is a treat. So I think he would by far be the best defenseman on the Chicago Blackhawks.
Absolutely. So make sure you check those articles on DeWindyCity.com. And, of course, if you want to hear about the Chicago White Sox, the SouthsideShowdown.com. On DeWindy City, you hear about all Chicago sports. Our guys write about the Blackhawks, the Bulls, the Cubs, the White Sox, and the Bears. And even during football season, I write about Notre Dame a little bit. Make sure you follow at Joey Pariese on Twitter, at Vinnie Pariese on Twitter. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
I'm excited for this week of playoff hockey. Hopefully by this time next week, there's going to be more series that are over. Who knows with the Habs and Jets, because we can't predict the Canadian games apparently. For all we know,
matchups for the third round kind of got a little lucky there.
What's up?
We kind of got a little lucky. We do know the matchup potential for the next round, round 3. The winner of Bruins Islanders is going to play the winner of Carolina Tampa, and the winner of Montreal Winnipeg is going to play the winner of Vegas Colorado.
Is that for sure, no matter what?
Because the seeds just happen to line up that way. It was made official when Montreal beat Toronto. Because if Toronto would have won, then a bunch of different scenarios could have happened, because they're all reseeding. But it just Montreal playing Winnipeg, that's 3 playing 4. So it guaranteed playing Colorado versus Vegas, because no matter who wins that series is going to be the top seed, and no matter who wins the Canadian series is going to be the bottom seed. So it guaranteed that they're going to play each other no matter the results.
Wow, I did not know that.
If Toronto would have won, then that would have made things fishy with the Lightning, the Hurricanes, and the Bruins, because of the fact that they're all kind of in that same area.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's very interesting. I have a chance to go pretty good in my bracket then. If Carolina can win against Tampa, I believe in my bracket I have Boston beating Carolina and Colorado beating Edmonton. So if Colorado just beats the Jets instead, then I did pretty good in my bracket.
Yeah. I mean, the only ones we sucked at predicting was Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, Canada. So make sure you tune in to Crosstown Crosstalk, 2 p.m. tomorrow. Me and Joey have a very, very, very special guest. And, I'll have more on that later tonight on @twitter.com. You can find me at Vinnie Pariese. Make sure you follow at Joey Pariese, as mentioned before. Very excited for that show. We're talking White Sox, Cubs, MLB. Got 2 first-place teams in Chicago on June 2nd. That's kind of weird. So, got anything left before we wrap it up?
Great show.
Pretty much wrapped it up right there. Yeah, it was a show. I love talking about the lottery. Make sure you tune in. I'm drinking a bottle of wine on Twitter live with everyone. Make sure you're following along. It's going to be entertaining if the Devils win, or the Hawks.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So for Joey, I'm Vinny. Thank you for listening.